Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of the award-winning podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire, and you're listening to the Excelsior Journeys with George Sirois. Prepare to ignite.
Is there a burning desire within to share your creativity with the rest of the world? Do you insist on pursuing your passion by any means necessary? Then you are on an Excelsior journey, and you are not alone. Welcome back to Excelsior Journeys. My name is George Sirois. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for listening to over 60 episodes, dealing with so many great people, sharing their stories, getting to let all of you know just how they are doing on their own Excelsior journey. It's been such an inspiring show. I am so grateful to all of you for sharing your stories, and for all of you listeners for listening in, for the rates, for the reviews, for the subscriptions, for the downloads. Please keep them coming. Every one of them is so appreciated. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have seen the documentary I believe it's still available on YouTube. It's called TED, The Future We Will Create. And what it is a look behind the scenes at the great TED experience, a full weekend over in, I believe it's Monterey, California, where all the great minds come in, they collaborate, they instruct, they inspire. It's just a hub of amazing information. And for that year that the documentary was being made, one of the guests was Pastor Rick Warren. And he said a little something that really struck me throughout all the years that after I've seen this. And it's simply this, is what he's saying is, what do you have that you've been given? Talent, background, education, freedom, resources. What are you doing with what you've been given? And then he says this, did you know that God smiles when you be you? And when you do what you're wired to do, he says, that's my boy, that's my girl. And that struck me in such a great way, because it really means a lot to me, knowing that the sort of things that come easy to you, the things that feel like it's not really work, it's something that you get a real joy out of doing. That's what you've been wired to do. That is the direction that you should take yourself, whether it is a job or whether it's a gig or something to keep that passion going, keep yourself moving forward. That was a real inspiration for the whole Excelsior Journeys podcast in the first place, because it's all about finding your passion, indulging it, moving forward with it, and using it to make everything around you more positive. And my guest for this week is a perfect example of that. Greta Brokaw grew up in a spiritual home. She's a family member of a pastor, and it was only several years after, when she became an adult, that's when she really kind of embraced the fact that she should be operating in a spiritual format. And so in 2010, she created a wonderful program called Heart Medicine Devotions. And for the 10th anniversary of that program, she is here to tell us all about it. It is my privilege to welcome Greta Brokaw to the show. Greta, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on, George.
And thank you very much for being here. So before we go into your whole background, tell us a little bit about Heart Medicine Devotions that has now reached its 10th anniversary.
Yes. I started writing Heart Medicine Devotions after I heard a challenge at a missions conference, and it goes right back to the Rick Warren quote that you used, where the speaker asked, is there anything that you've ever felt the Lord pushing you to do for him that you've just not done? Mm-hmm. And he challenged us to think of that thing and to pursue it. And I had been a professional writer for years, but was doing more technical writing, business writing, marketing writing. But mm-hmm. I had previously been a ghostwriter for a pastor when I worked at a church for a time. And I had loved writing devotionals, writing. These were devotional radio spots that I had done, and it was something I had missed. So that prompted me to go back to that and say, this is something that the Lord put on my heart a long time ago. Maybe it's time to sow that seed again. And so I started writing heart medicine devotionals. And excellent. I would send them out to basically anybody that I knew would not reject the email, all of my friends, all of my contacts, just started building a list, and it just grew from there. And I ended up entering one into a writing contest for a self-publishing company. Nice. And won a self-publishing package through the contest. And so then what had started as just writing regular devotionals and sending them out as emails turned into, okay, now I have enough that I can put a book together.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's what really got the fire going, really.
Yes.
Fabulous.
And so since then, I just finished in 2020, I just finished the 3rd volume of Heart Medicine Devotions. And so that's kind of been my process that I go through, is just continuing to do one devotional at a time, because there's a lot of study that goes into one of them. To make sure that they're biblically accurate. And then once I get enough to put together a collection for another book, I go ahead and I self-publish that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Is there which particular self-publishing house are you working with?
Well, I had started with Xulon Press. That was where I won the contest in the beginning. And they still do that, where they have, I believe it's quarterly writing contests, and they also have some annual contests and so forth. And so I did my first book with them, and actually my second book as well. But then I discovered KDP through Amazon.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Kindle Direct Publishing. Yep.
Yes. And now that I'm kind of familiar with self-publishing, KDP was a really good fit for me, because I can control the process a little more. Yep. I'm in New York and Xulon Press is in Florida. So while they were very good to me, there was kind of a disconnect sometimes with the planning for the books. So I'm really enjoying working through KDP on Amazon and just kind of managing the whole process myself now.
Excellent. This may be a little bit too far of an inside baseball question for our listeners, but just curious, do you own your own ISBN?
I have, my first 2 ISBNs were issued through Xulon, and then the third one was issued through Amazon.
Okay. Yeah. Just a little tip, if I may offer it.
Sure.
If you go ahead and own your own ISBN through Bowkers.com, if you go ahead and purchase your own, then you can use the same ISBN on both Amazon and Ingram Spark. And Ingram Spark will get you into the bookstore catalogs. That will get you into, say, like Barnes & Noble. And if you're in the Barnes & Noble catalog, then that is already 3/4 of the way through with getting a signing done over there. So even though brick and mortar stores have taken a hit, especially this year, because of COVID, they're still out there, and local bookstores are always willing to work with local authors. So that is something that if you want to go in that direction, it's definitely something worth exploring.
See, and I so appreciate that, George, because that has been a big piece of everything that I've done, is just taking tips here and there, researching things on Google. When you're an indie, you're just always looking for the next opportunity, and you find out about them from all different sources. So I really appreciate that tip. I will definitely use that.
Yes. And I hope that all of you other listeners that are looking to start up their own career as an author takes that to heart as well. I know that KDP does offer their own ISBN. I know that it's free, And I'm asking you to invest a little extra money because Bowker's is, if I'm not mistaken, about $100 for one ISBN number, one ISBN, or I think it's 200 or so for 10. But that is something definitely worth exploring, especially if you plan to do more than one book, because like I said, bookstores are always willing to work with local authors, but the one thing that they're not 100% willing to do is put money in Amazon's pocket, since they're the ones that are working so hard to put them out of business. So if you have another option, if you have another avenue for the bookstores to order your books and go ahead and set it up and everything, they will go ahead and bring you in for signings, to have their books, your books on their shelf, and work with you in a really interesting way. Having worked at Barnes and Noble for a period of time, I can definitely say that they do look for that. If they see that your book is out of stock in the Ingram warehouse, and if they see that they can only get it through Amazon, then that's gonna create a couple of roadblocks there for you.
Yes.
But if you work with Ingram Spark, you work with them to get your books out there, then all of a sudden those doors are going to open, because you're making it a lot easier for the stores to order your books. So
yeah, that's fantastic advice, because it's easy when you're in indie. It's easy to feel like I'm going to be selling these books out of my trunk for the rest of my life, you know?
Exactly.
So it's wonderful to get that kind of advice that can help you open a new door that you didn't even know was there.
Absolutely. So let's go back to your story, your own Excelsior journey, and let's go back to what I always call the lightning bolt moment, the moment that everyone has, where you experience something, you read something, you see something, and it just makes you think, that is the path I want to go on. That is the life I want to lead. That is what I want to be. What was that moment for you?
I did ministry alongside my parents for years. I worked with them in their church, and had different opportunities there. It was a great growth place for me. And my father was very entrepreneurial in the way that he did ministry. But then several years later, I got to work at what you would call a mega church. And yes. And while I was there, they actually had me sing and speak at a women's event, a large women's event. And that was probably one of the defining moments where I knew that this is something that I'm supposed to be doing. I had always sung at my parents' church, but that was a much smaller church. And by the time I was working at the other church, I had come through some things personally that had really tested my faith, really tested my relationship with the Lord. And when I came back to the Lord, and then I got to speak at this event and share some of that, some of what I had gone through, that was when I knew that I am meant to do this. I am, and that's a wonderful thing spiritually, to realize that you've made mistakes, you've been through some hard things, but they were not for naught. And there are people that need to hear your story. There are people that need the encouragement that you can give because you've been there. And so that was a moment where I knew that I was meant to share with women. And so I do it through writing, but I also do it through singing and songwriting and speaking. And it's just this whole comprehensive package of just communicating mercy to women and pointing women to a life lived for the Lord and all the benefits that will bring them in every area of their lives.
Excellent. Excellent. When you said your father was entrepreneurial, what exactly did you mean by that?
My father was one who got into ministry later in life.
Hmm.
He was an educator first of all, and so he
Hmm.
was a lifelong learner, and started off as a public school teacher, and then moved into administration and everything. And he was not ordained as a Baptist minister until I was 11.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so he went into it much later in life, but he was completely sold out to the ministry. And so, being older than most people who would go into the ministry, he really had to carve his own path, you
Mm.
know. And so he did that by getting on the boards of different ministries. I remember one of the things that I grew up in Buffalo, so
Hmm.
he was on the board of the Buffalo City Mission, and uh, we would go there, and he would do services at the mission for the men that were there. And but he was doing that because he was new to ministry.
Hmm.
He needed a training ground, and he would take whatever training ground he could get, and worked with different people who mentored him, different pastors and so forth. And just kind of really ingrained that in me, that if you feel called to do something, uh, you need to take every opportunity that you can get your hands on to hone your craft, to learn from people who have already established themselves, to build relationships and find mentors. And so that's something that my dad definitely passed along to me.
Excellent. Excellent. And the things that you would talk about that really noted that you noted that really kind of put you on the direction that you are now on. Is it anything that you feel comfortable talking about here, or is it something that
Uh,
you just wanted
yeah,
to keep
yeah,
with?
I can talk about it. When I was when I was in my 20s, I came to a point where I all of my friends were getting married, all of my friends were having kids, all of my friends were buying houses,
Hmm.
and I had a great job and everything, but I didn't have the relationship that I wanted, and I wasn't, I didn't have any prospects for marriage, as crazy as that sounds or whatever, but that was a gnawing thing for me. And
Hmm.
so it pushed me to, just go down a bad path where I left the Lord for a while and just kind of jumped into any relationship that I could get a hold of. And really it left me in a very bad place. I was just a mess spiritually. I was just a mess emotionally. And
Hmm.
and it took me a long time to find my way back. It took me a long time to find my way back. I got stuck in an abusive relationship that was not good, and and when I finally found my way back,
Yeah.
I realized that the Lord was not done with me. There were times that I felt like, I can never get back to the Lord because I knew better. You know,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
had been raised in the church. I had been taught all the right things. I had great parents who loved me and believed in me and gave me everything that they could. And so I just felt very unforgivable, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
And but the truth is that we're all unforgivable outside of the grace of God, you know?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and so I learned that God's grace, God's mercy, God's forgiveness is available to everyone,
Hmm.
and all I had to do was to turn around and leave behind the foolish choices that I had made, and start living for the Lord again. And as soon as I did that, I cannot tell you how my life started to change, and I cannot tell you how the Lord opened doors for me. I was in a very dark place, and
Yeah.
very hopeless and trapped, you know, now here I am some 25 years later, and you know, I have a wonderful husband. I have a 9-year-old son, and I have a ministry that you know, that reminds me of the hope that God has given me and allows me to pass that hope on to other women who are going through things. So so God's been very good to me. I can't say enough, and I know that if anyone is under the sound of my voice and they need that forgiveness, that redemption, that opportunity to turn their life around, God will give that to you. There is no pit so deep, as Corrie ten Boom said, that God's love is not deeper still.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's fantastic. So you said before that you made this decision to go on this path, and then all of a sudden doors started opening. What was that first opportunity for you that allowed that made you think, as soon as that happened, it was just like, okay, I was right. He is right. This is where I should be going. What was that first one like for you?
The first one was probably when I had an opportunity to sing at a Christian conference, and so I was singing for a week at this Christian camp, and it provided me the opportunity to not only sing, but to also do a little speaking around the singing, and to provide my books as well. And it was the first time that I was really like promoting my own ministry. You know, I had always been a part of somebody else's ministry and had always kind of backed that up. But now this was the first time where I was really able to share my story with people and share what the Lord was doing in my heart and what I felt he was giving me, rather than helping someone else to package their message, which is always a privilege. And I'm happy to do that. But there's no doubt in my mind that the Lord has brought me through some things that he wants me to share. And one of the great things that I found is that, you know, I made reference before to selling books out of the trunk of my car forever. And that may happen, but for me, one of the most rewarding things is when I get that email from a woman, or I get that note in the mail, or somebody comes up to me after I speak, or calls me after they've read a devotional, and they tell you how, you know, they were in such a terrible place and this really spoke to them, and that was just what I needed to hear, and or they come to me for counseling or something like that, and you know, those are the moments that really reinforce that I just need to keep pressing on in what I'm doing, because the Lord is using it on the days that I know he's using it, and on the days that I have no idea who's listening or who's reading or where it's going. He's using it all. And so I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I in its own little way, I kind of feel the same thing about this show, how you never know, you know, like who is going to be listening and who is going to be inspired by the right kind of guest. That's why my guest list is as eclectic as it is.
Yes.
You know, because everyone always has everyone's not just like focused on like that one thing. There's always like something else that's going to grab them in its own way. So it really does mean a lot to me whenever I hear something similar to that. When I hear that somebody was really taken by this particular interview that I had with this particular person, and I got a feeling that that's going to happen a lot this week. I just have that feeling. So what? So that opportunity comes. You were able to sing at this. It was a conference, right? You said.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a week-long conference, and basically, you would sing twice a day at
Hmm.
services and do like a mini concert
Yeah.
twice a day, and but there were so many women that came up to me there
Hmm.
that that just said the different comments that I had made to set up the songs, or different parts of my testimony or parts of my story that I had shared,
Hmm.
really resonated with them. That it was kind of, and the crazy thing is my parents were there,
Oh,
and
wow.
so it was the first time that I felt like I was stepping out from under their ministry, and and
Mm.
and kind of starting my own, and it was just a real blessing to have them there too, because
Yeah.
they had always encouraged me in that way, and
Hmm.
they knew long before I did what I was
Yeah.
meant to do, and that was a gift in itself.
Yeah. And that's what, and at the end of the day, that's what we hope that all parents are doing is, even though they're not forcing it on you, they're at least giving you the tools so that when the time comes for you to make the decision, you're well prepared and you're able to just jump right in.
Yes. Yes,
So,
absolutely. And my parents were great too, in that uh, they knew I had made mistakes, but they never made me feel like those mistakes voided any of the good stuff that was in me,
yeah.
and any
Yeah.
of the, you know what I mean, any of the gifts that the Lord had given me, and
Hmm.
the things that I had trained for and that I felt called to do. They just encouraged me through the good times and the bad, and I'm just very blessed by that. And it's
Wonderful.
a good reminder, I think, for all of us, that because I'm sure that that's part of any indie's journey, is going through some failures, going through some moments of doubt and some hard
Hmm.
times, and I think that that's a big part of your podcast too, George, is just the fact that we need to remind ourselves, we need to have people and resources that remind us that we're on this journey for a reason, and it may have twists and turns, but those twists and turns in the end won't destroy it. They'll only make it richer.
Yeah. They'll strengthen you, because if
Yes.
if if every if everyone was able to walk a straight path to where they need to go, then it would be kind of boring,
Right.
it. And if it's going to be exactly as you pictured it when you started, then where's the growth in that? So
Right.
you need to go through these sort of strenuous times to really figure out who it is that you are. And
Absolutely.
I think I remember in an interview during the making of Godfather 3, of all things, George Hamilton was talking about Francis Coppola and saying how sometimes you have to be forced into a corner in order to come back fighting the way you really should. And
Yes.
so that's what this is all about. You go through this adversity, you go through these hard times, and at the end of the day, they're going to make you what you are. And I remember seeing a lot on social media how there's everyone is saying how, like, if you can go back in time and fix one thing, what would you fix? And I understand, like, the butterfly effect of things.
Hmm.
And I know that at the end of the day, I have an amazing wife and a beautiful daughter, and living in a great house, and I get
Hmm.
to do this. And I have a terrific boss who supports what I do, and like, I love what I do, and I love what I'm doing here. So I, as do I have my own regrets of things I didn't do? Sure, but I got here, so I must have done something
Right.
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 So so
And
yeah.
and knowing all of that, would you really change anything? Because Romans 8:28 says that we know that all things work together for good to
Hmm.
those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. So I truly believe that the Lord uses it all. And there are verses throughout the Bible that talk about how the Lord caused things to happen that were not sweet and wonderful things. They were things that he was using and that he was using to test people, that he was using to grow people and to strengthen people. And so I truly believe that about our path in life, that that all things do work together for good in the end, as long as we allow God to use them for his purposes.
There you go. Exactly. And so getting back to the conference, you said that you were singing twice a day. Now, were you part of a choir? Were you doing your own performances? Did you have like the spotlight on you?
Yes, I was doing my own. I've been a solo singer since I was about 15 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And my father pastored a small country church for many years. And I was one of the few people there that was willing to get up and sing. And so my mother would bring home background tapes from the Christian bookstore and give them to me. And she brought home background tapes from like Sandy Patty and, all of these Christian artists that were big back then, the Gaithers and so forth. And one of the ones that she would bring me tapes from was Babby Mason, who I really loved her music. And she is like a Dove Award-winning songwriter and singer. And so I did covers of many of her songs. And, just as we talk about the different doors that open and the different opportunities, she's one who does a lot of supportive things for Christian indie artists. So I got her assistance with promoting my book recently, and also with promoting some music that I've written. And now I've started having a mentoring relationship with her, where she's assisting me with my songwriting, and we're actually working on a song together at this point. And to me, that's like another amazing thing, that where the seed was planted some 30 years ago when my mother was buying me tapes, and now I'm actually having meetings with Babby Mason, with this Christian artist who's been around for decades, just like I'm talking to you right now, George, and she's helping me on my next journey, which is songwriting.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I've the sort of things that I've experienced so far as being a host of the show were things I never would have thought possible.
Right.
The sort of connections that have come up as a result of this. I think it really is something, that when you stop and think about it, it really is something that you just, once you find your path and once you're on it and everything, some amazing things will happen. Yes. Now you said background tapes. What exactly does that mean? Is that just like karaoke kind of thing? Or
pretty much. Yes. It was karaoke before there was karaoke, and,
gotcha.
And so I would sing with taped backgrounds, at the church, and then also did that at different events and Christian conferences and other churches. And as I said before, my dad was entrepreneurial. So one of the things that he did before he got his own church, he worked for different ministries and volunteered for different ministries. And as a result, he spoke and sang, because my father was a singer too, in more than 60 churches before he got his own church. And so that was the training ground for me as well with the singing, because every time that he would speak at a church, he would have me sing there. And then when he got his own church, then I was pretty much the primary singer there for many years. And so going back to what we were saying about just trying different things, you really just have to have an open mind, and you really just have to keep finding little things that you can do, I think, because your purpose is like the needle in the haystack, and you got to keep going through the haystack and doing one little thing at a time until, and you'll find things in there that don't seem like a big deal, but they can open other opportunities for you, and just kind of snowball over time. It's really an exciting thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm loving these stories that you're telling about that first conference and how that really felt like that was almost like the catalyst of everything. It was just like so you have those performances, you have that, like, so that means you are basically, you're out there on the stage, you have the opportunity to tell your story, which you do, which is great, because that is you being you. That is you not trying to, perform or speak or anything on behalf of someone else. You're speaking for you. You're speaking for you, that hopefully other people will be able to hear it, be inspired by it, and want to, I guess, like, invest maybe in what it is that you're doing.
Yes.
So what was it that time that you already had your name, you already had the idea for what it is that this ministry was going to be, or was it something that kind of developed over time?
Heart medicine itself, I came up with the title Heart Medicine Devotions when I first started writing the devotions, and because it came from the verse Proverbs 17:22, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. So that's where the name Heart Medicine comes from, and so I've just been kind of building around that. A lot of things, like everybody else, a lot of things fell off my calendar in 2020. But one of the things that survived was a women's conference in Bedford, Pennsylvania. And it was a great opportunity where everything kind of came together, that I was the speaker, the keynote speaker for the women's conference, got to share my story, got to do some Bible teaching. I also sang, I interwove some songs with that, songs that I've been doing for years and songs that I've written recently. And then also had the opportunity to counsel some women around that event. And so, like, one of the things that I've been doing now too is I've started taking counseling courses, just to, again, sharpen myself to go along, because, I'm working on putting out books, I'm working on putting out songs, but they are things that kind of hit people at a deep place. So I then have people coming to me to talk to me and to ask me about these things. And I have some counseling abilities from over the years, I believe, and I believe the Lord helps me with that. But at the same time, I want to get better at everything that this ministry entails. So I'm really trying to build my counseling skills as well, because that's where the rubber meets the road. I want to help people change for the better. I want to help people get closer to the Lord, and so I just need every ability that I can get to do that.
Excellent. Oh man, this is amazing. Okay, so during that conference, people were coming up to you, correct? Like, they were coming up to you and asking, like, how they can get involved.
Yes. And also just looking for personal counseling, for assistance, I mean, where you finish speaking and you have somebody come up to you sobbing and now what do I do with this? But that event, that week, I should say, just definitely showed me that this is the direction that I need to go in, and I need to be building my skills, and I also need to be looking for every platform that I can get to sow this seed that the Lord has given me, and to just give the message out to women in particular in any way that I can.
Excellent. Have you thought about doing something like a podcast?
I actually do my devotionals as a podcast. And
No kidding.
Yeah. And I started through Spreaker.
Yep.
.com.
And there's Spreaker.
And so basically what I do is I had one of my friends who's been kind of a mentor to me. She said, I'm just so busy. I really wish that I could listen to your devotionals.
Mm-hmm.
And so that got me to thinking, I wonder if I could do that. I wonder what would I have to do? And so I found Spreaker, and basically I just read the devotional at this point. So it's kind of a work in progress.
Yeah.
That I'm trying to improve the format maybe, but it just allows me to put out an audio file with each written file, and so that people can listen to the devotional if they're not able to read it. Yeah.
Excellent. And what's the name of the show?
It is Heart Medicine Devotions. Yeah.
Just Heart Medicine Devotions. All right.
Yes.
You heard it here, folks. Definitely, go there.
Yeah. Yep. And it's on Castbox. It's on Apple Podcasts.
There you go.
It's on iHeartRadio. Few different formats. So
is it on Amazon yet?
I don't believe it's on Amazon.
Definitely submit it. They've opened up the doors for podcasts now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, my show just recently got on there. So
very nice.
Yeah, it's got on there, and it just a couple of weeks ago it got on Pandora. So it's very, very exciting times for podcasts these days. So I'm glad that you've taken that opportunity to take advantage of that. So tell us a little bit about the books themselves, because you said you have 3 books now that you put out. All right, so how did they get started? You mentioned the contest at the beginning.
Yes. And so basically once I won the contest, I put together, I had already been sending out devotions at that point for like 3 or 4 years. And so I had like 60 devotionals that I compiled into a book, and just kind of honed them a little, but basically producing books has been a pretty easy process for me, just because since they are devotionals, it's not too overwhelming. I'm having a young child and having a lot of different ministry responsibilities and stuff like that. It's easy for me that I'm kind of working on one devotional at a time, and which is like less than 1,000 words. And then once I've assembled enough of them, then I just go ahead and put a book together. And but it's great. I have people that are always like, when's the next book coming out? When's the next one? I'll get there. It's coming. So I'm always working on the next collection.
Excellent. And that's always a great thing to hear whenever a reader comes up to you and says, like, when's the next one coming out? Because I need to know when the next one is coming out. Like that's an amazing feeling. It doesn't happen to me very often with my own books, but they're there. and I am incredibly grateful to them for that sort of reaction. I'm glad that they can feed into that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before that you started off with ghostwriting.
Yes.
What was that experience like? And was there someone in particular that was taking the credit, or was it just something that had no credit altogether?
There was a pastor that I worked for, and he had a regular radio spot, and it was a daily radio spot called The Encouraging Word. And he started writing them himself, but then as the church grew, it became the kind of thing where he, had too many other responsibilities to be doing the daily writing, because he literally needed 5 spots a week. It was a Monday through Friday thing. And so And I was there in more of an administrative position, but as they got to know me, they realized that I had a lot of writing skills and particularly loved to do creative writing. So over time, I took over the writing for those spots, and it was great. It was a real blessing, but it was for somebody else's voice, and it was following a format that was already established and writing in somebody else's voice. So while it was definitely a blessing to be able to do that and a great training ground for me, I'm very blessed now to be able to write from my own heart and to be able to write about the things that the Lord has shown me or is working on in me or wants to do through me.
Excellent. It's kind of like that conference all over again with the spotlight on you while you're there singing and speaking in your own voice, using your own experiences to amplify that. It's very much like, I'm not sure if you heard the episode. This was a brief episode that I did back in 2019, but it was simply called A Call to Action. And it was me basically just putting it out there. I didn't have a guest that week. And I just basically just said to everyone to stop stepping away from the spotlight whenever it's on you, to claim who it is that you are and run with it, because there's someone out there that needs to hear your story. And especially to anyone who's working in a creative aspect, any sort of writer, artist, songwriter, filmmaker, whatever, the moment you set that out there into the world, you're saying, I matter. I have something here that matters. And as soon as you step away from that spotlight, you're basically saying, I matter, but not really. So what is the point in that? Go all out with it. So that is a perfect illustration of that. The fact that you were writing for someone else using their voice, but all of a sudden here you have an opportunity to present your own voice and you go with it. I think that's an amazing thing. And I think that a lot of people out there really need to hear and heed, because who knows what they have, who knows what they have to offer. We don't know until they bring it forward.
Right. And from a Christian perspective, we shy away from lifting ourselves up, but the thing is that it's about bringing glory to God, and that's how you bring glory to him. He put the gifts in you. He gave you the opportunities. He has ordered everything that has gone on in your life. He's the sovereign Lord of the universe, and he gets the glory when you take the things that have happened, when you take the things that he's put in you, and you just really grow them and use them and give them away to people who need it. So I think that again, we can jump back to you quoting Rick Warren at the beginning, that it all comes back that there's purpose in all of this. And so many times I think we get stuck in life because we focus on the bad aspects, and we get this idea that that life is over, life will never be the same, we'll never get past this, and that is just all completely untrue. As long as, my father used to say, as long as you've got breath in your body and sense in your head, you still have the opportunity to keep going and to keep moving forward and to keep moving onward and upward. And I believe that's what the Lord wants for all of us. He wants us to not get stuck in one place, to not wallow in what could have been, or to not wallow in what we wish we had done, but to keep moving on, to keep learning from it and to keep growing. And as you said, there will always be someone out there who needs to see someone else who made it past that point.
Yeah.
And so that's just a real blessing. It blesses everybody all the way around. It blesses the person who needs to feel like there's purpose in what they've been through. It blesses the person who is still struggling to move on from something, or is still struggling to find their way to the next thing. And it gives the glory to God. So it is just a win-win-win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And now, if anyone were to want to start listening to your ministries, start reading your devotions, is there a particular starting point that you recommend, or can they just jump in anytime?
Yes, they can jump in anytime. They can go to myheartmedicine.com, and there are devotionals you can read on there. There are the podcast links are on there as well. Some newer things I've started doing now is I'm doing some YouTube videos where I speak a little bit. There's links to all of that stuff on there, and also contact information if for speaking engagements or singing or that. I'm always looking to grow that aspect in particular as well. And so myheartmedicine.com is definitely the starting place. And of course, Heart Medicine is also on Facebook, and everything is available through Amazon. And so lots of different ways to access it. And I even have a Heart Medicine app.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
well, tell us a little bit about this.
Well, it was just another one of my crazy ideas, George, that maybe I could make an app out of all of this. So
yeah, I definitely want to hear about this. So yeah.
So there's an app available on Google Play and on the iTunes store, and or I'm sorry, the App Store, and
right.
Basically, you can read devotionals through that as well. You can, or you can listen to them. It's got all the links there, and just makes it a little, so it renders better on your mobile device, and just so that you can easily access all the different things. And so I'm always looking for the next thing that I can use to just get the message out. And that just seemed like a really good way to do it right now. People are very into apps at this point, and it's perfect. Yep. It's perfect for the media.
So I got to ask now, because that's something that has always kind of been in the back of my mind, wondering how am I supposed to get this out there to as many ears or like apps and everything, or phones as possible? How am I supposed to do that? And I've always thought about the possibility of an app, but it always seemed like something that I would need so much more of a background to get to that point where I can actually develop it.
No,
how did you get that together?
You really, George, technology, there are so many sites now that kind of take the guesswork out of that stuff for you. The stuff where you used to have to be a programmer to figure it out. Yeah. And now if you just have a moderate amount of computer experience, you can pretty much work your way through it. I found that I use Constant Contact for email distribution, and they provide templates and provide all of the background database and everything for email merges. And then I used to use a company called Custom Church Apps. There's also, and they were absorbed by Subsplash, which is another Christian app company. But the one I'm using currently is SwiftTick, which has a very easy platform to plug in your branding elements and to plug in your different links to, whatever your website or whatever social media platforms or podcasting platforms you might be using. So, so I would recommend that for anybody who's looking to turn out an app for their media. And so I'm just always searching out those things. I've always got something that I'm working on. Another I should probably, just for anyone who's doing music, because since you have a creative community that you built, George, if there are people out there who are writing or recording music, you definitely want to get on DistroKid. And DistroKid is another one of those platforms where you can upload your music, and it's very inexpensive to have an account, and it's unlimited downloads once you pay for your annual account. And they will distribute it on like every music platform known to man. They will distribute it on iHeartRadio, and they will distribute it on the iTunes store and Amazon Music and everywhere, Spotify. So those are just some great things that I've found that are relatively inexpensive, very user-friendly, but allow you to distribute your media to just a huge international audience.
Fabulous. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm so excited now. Like, and so yeah, I can already see some amazing things happening for you, for Heart Medicine in the near future. I really do. I think that you have a terrific message. I think that that you have a very inspiring message, and I'm looking forward to seeing how far it can go, because really the sky's the limit for something like this.
Right.
And I hope that all of you have taken the same thing to mind. I hope that all of you remember what we have spoken about, what Rick Warren had said that inspired this whole conversation in the first place, how God smiles when you be you. That's basically it. How he has wired you to do certain things, and when you are actually doing those things, then so many opportunities open, and your mind itself just opens up to all the possibilities that are there.
Yes.
I hope that all of you remember that. I hope all of you heed that. And for Greta Brokaw, this is George Sirois saying to all of you, ever upward. And I will see you next week.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. If you've never been an Audible customer and want to see what they offer, just go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Why Audible? Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, and entertainers. And with this free 30-day trial, you'll have your pick of it all. You can hear books of all genres narrated by Jim Dale, Stephen Fry, Will Patton, Alex Hyde White, Jeff Brick, Neil Shaw, William Demerit, and even a few by me, George Sirois. So go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and start your own 30-day journey with Audible today.